Okay, I think I am recording myself. Here, I'm going to share my screen with you, Professor. Okay, hello, Professor. My name is Rigo Cuevas, and this is my CLA 2 presentation. This is my cover page, and my agenda may seem short, but it is in a table of contents. I'll be talking about my major findings in my CLA 2 and learning outcomes from both PA1 and CLA 2. Each topic will be broken down into 4 or 5 different slides. So one of my major findings in my CLA 2 was utilitarianism. I apologize if I'm pronouncing it slowly or incorrect. It's a hard word for me to pronounce. Moving on, what is utilitarianism? Utilitarianism states that we should behave so as to create the greatest good for the greatest numbers. So what it ultimately means is working for the majority of the people. It is also known as one of the 3 ethical theories. Some qualities of this ethical theory is working for the interests of the majority, having a high concern for others, and making the majority happy. This may seem all sunshine and rainbows, but for others, incorporating this ethical theory is easier said than done. Incorporating this theory isn't for everyone. To incorporate it, one must first change their perspective. This sounds easy, but it is quite difficult. One must change their perspective towards their followers. For example, a situation might occur and the leader will instinctively tackle it their own way, but how do they know it will make the followers happy? They don't, not unless they ask the followers how they feel about it. Or if the leader's style is like a dictator and the followers will obviously feel terrible and not want to work there or follow them. So if the leader can change his or her perspective towards their followers, they can incorporate this ethical theory. Next is how it promotes ethical behavior. It is pretty simple, to be honest, and that is it maintains happiness within the followers. All right, so moving on to my CLA 2 personal examples. My leadership style is supportive, which is basically being friendly and approachable. I will further discuss this in my next slide. So an example of me practicing my supported leadership is when I was in my sophomore year in college. I went to Golden West College, a junior college, and was on the men's soccer team. Overall, this summer I was asked to be captain this season because of my last year. I was familiar with the style and overall just worked extremely hard. Anyways, throughout the summer, I'd always be the first one at practice, work hard, and lead by example. This helped me earn the trust of my teammates. I also never complained to my teammates about their mistakes. All I ever asked was to do your best. At the end of the day, we are humans and nobody is perfect. I was just attending to my teammates, and whenever they had a question or needed somebody to talk to, I was easily approachable and friendly. Also, there were injuries. I would often go to the trainers and check up on my teammates, asking them if they needed me to roll them out and help them with stretches and just being there for them. Lastly, I am the type of player to play almost anywhere in the field. We did not have defenders from the start, and so I was willing to step up and play there. I played majority of the season as center defensive mid, and which is a very supportive role on the soccer team. All right, excuse me, I lost myself for a second. All right, next is an I team player. I like to say I am. Um, 1 second, sorry, Professor. Um, I would say I am a team player because I have ambition not for myself, but for any team I am part of. I am certainly not talented enough to do everything by myself in soccer, so I definitely rely on my teammates' help to have the best possible success as a team. Victory also tastes better if the team works together rather than having an individual carry the team on their back. So I would say I am a team player. My position requires a lot of stamina, so if my team needs me to run 2 or 3 extra miles a day after practice, I will. And the last major finding in my CLA 2 was how I handle conflict. For me personally, it depends on the situation, but for the most part, I try to show empathy by understanding where that person is coming from. I also try to put myself in their shoes. Next is my learning outcomes in my PA1. First is the leadership style I rely on. Wait, excuse me, sorry, I lost myself. The first is the leadership style that I rely on the most, being a supported leader. A supported leader goes out of the way to make work pleasant for followers, which in return provides followers with the confidence necessary to succeed. I already did, I already described an example, so not to sound repetitive, I'll be moving on. And a quote that describes power and who I consider myself to be is referent power, which is derived from an individual's personal charisma and the respect and or admiration the individual aspires. I also learned in this PA1 on what leadership style I least rely on, and that is directive. They basically give followers instructions and about their task, including what is expected of them, how it is to be done, and the timeline for when it should be done. And moving on, an example would be a drill sergeant. I personally cannot give direct orders or yell like that. That is not who I am, and nor do I have the cojones to do so. Next is my learning outcomes in CLA 1. My paper was mainly about Hitler and his leadership style. He was directive and empowered his people. He gave more than 5,000 persuasive speeches that bewitched his audiences and promised them that his empire would reign for 1,000 years. He was basically really good at giving speeches. Next is how he dealt with conflict by taking things into his own hands. He had the numbers and the weapons to do what he wanted, and the effectiveness. Sorry, I lost myself for a second. His effectiveness was mainly about his persuasive speeches and building relationships. And this is like what basically made him really powerful, and obviously who he was. So overall, this is my summary. So overall, I learned my leadership style, which is supportive and directive, being the least one I rely on the most. That utilitarianism is the best ethical theory out of the three. I learned how to incorporate it and how to be effective like Hitler. And that is not, I'm not talking about like what he did bad. I'm talking about his like way of persuading people with his speeches and stuff like that. I also learned what like how I deal with conflict, my conflict styles, and that is basically it. These are my references, and thank you. Sorry, I'm having trouble.